India, the world's largest democracy, faces a unique set of challenges in conducting its elections. The sheer scale of the electorate, coupled with the frequency of elections, poses significant logistical and financial burdens. One Nation, One Election is a proposed electoral reform that seeks to address these challenges by synchronizing elections for the Lok Sabha, or lower house of parliament, and state assemblies. This idea, though not new, has gained significant traction in recent years, sparking intense debate about its potential benefits and drawbacks. Proponents argue that simultaneous elections would streamline the electoral process, reduce costs, and allow for a more focused approach to governance. They believe that it would reduce the disruption caused by the frequent election cycle, allowing governments to focus on long-term policy initiatives. However, critics raise concerns about the potential erosion of federalism, the suppression of regional issues, and the logistical complexities of implementing such a reform in a vast and diverse country like India. The One Nation, One Election proposal promises a range of benefits. One of the most touted advantages is the potential for significant cost savings. Holding simultaneous elections would eliminate the need for multiple electoral rolls, reduce expenditure on security personnel, and minimize the disruption to everyday life caused by frequent elections. This would free up substantial resources that could be redirected towards development initiatives. Furthermore, proponents argue that it would lead to improved governance. With fewer elections, the government could focus on policy implementation and long-term planning, rather than being perpetually in campaign mode. This could potentially result in greater stability, continuity, and accountability in governance. Additionally, it is believed that simultaneous elections could boost voter turnout. By aligning national and state elections, voter fatigue could be reduced, leading to greater participation and a more representative democracy. Implementing One Nation, One Election is not without its challenges. Significant constitutional amendments would be required to synchronize the electoral cycles of the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Article 83 of the Constitution, which deals with the duration of Houses of Parliament, and Article 172, which pertains to the duration of state legislatures, would need to be amended. This would require a broad political consensus, which is not easily achievable in India's diverse political landscape. Logistically, holding simultaneous elections in a country as vast and populous as India would be a mammoth undertaking. It would require a massive deployment of security personnel, election officials, and logistical resources. Ensuring free and fair elections across the country while maintaining law and order would be a Herculean task. One of the most contentious aspects of the One Nation, One Election proposal is its potential impact on India's federal structure. Critics argue that holding simultaneous elections could undermine the autonomy of states and lead to the dominance of national issues over local concerns. They fear that state elections could become a referendum on the central government, overshadowing local issues and candidates. Achieving political consensus on such a significant electoral reform would be a major hurdle. The proposal requires the support of not just the central government, but also a majority of states. Given the diverse political affiliations of state governments, reaching a consensus on this issue would require extensive dialogue, negotiation, and compromise. Reduced campaign periods versus national versus local issues. A balancing act. While proponents argue that reduced campaign periods would minimize disruption and cost, critics contend that it could limit the opportunity for meaningful political discourse and engagement with voters. Shorter campaigns could benefit well-funded national parties, potentially putting regional parties and independent candidates at a disadvantage. Another concern is that synchronizing elections could lead to the nationalization of local issues. State and local issues, which are often distinct from national concerns, might get sidelined in a campaign dominated by national narratives. This could potentially result in the underrepresentation of This could potentially result in the underrepresentation of local concerns and priorities. Impact on regional parties and potential for electoral manipulation. One of the main criticisms leveled against One Nation, One Election is its potential impact on regional parties. Critics argue that simultaneous elections would benefit national parties with greater resources and wider reach, potentially marginalizing regional parties that play a crucial role in representing local interests and aspirations. Another concern is that holding simultaneous elections could increase the risk of electoral manipulation. A single election event could potentially be more susceptible to large-scale rigging or manipulation, undermining the fairness and integrity of the electoral process. Current status and opposition viewpoints. A divided landscape. The One Nation, One Election proposal, while gaining traction in recent years, remains a contentious issue in Indian politics. The government has set up a committee to study the feasibility of implementing this reform, but no concrete steps have been taken so far. Opposition parties, including the Congress, Trinamool Congress, TMC, and Communist Party of India, Marxist, CPIM, have expressed strong reservations about the proposal. The Congress Party has criticized the proposal as being impractical and a threat to federalism. TMC Supremo Mamata Banerjee has termed it a conspiracy to finish off regional parties. The CPIM has also voiced its opposition, calling it a direct attack on the federal structure of the country. Government's response to concerns, addressing apprehensions. The government, while acknowledging the complexities involved, maintains that One Nation, One Election is a reform worth exploring. It argues that the proposal is not about centralizing power, but rather about streamlining the electoral process and enhancing governance. The government has assured that it is open to dialogue and willing to address the concerns raised by various stakeholders. To allay fears of undermining federalism, the government has suggested that state assemblies could be given the flexibility to choose their election dates within a certain time frame. It has also emphasized that the proposal is still in the conceptual stage and that any decision will be taken after thorough consultations and consensus building. Feasibility and future trajectory, a question of political will. The feasibility of implementing One Nation, One Election in India hinges on a number of factors, most importantly political will and public acceptance. Given the complex constitutional amendments required and the need for consensus among various political parties and state governments, the path to implementation is fraught with challenges. Public opinion on the issue remains divided. While some view it as a necessary reform to improve governance and reduce electoral expenditure, others see it as an attempt to undermine federalism and stifle regional voices. Ultimately, the success or failure of this proposal will depend on the government's ability to build a broad-based consensus and address the concerns of all stakeholders. Conclusion. One Nation, One Election. A reform for the future. One Nation, One Election is a complex and multifaceted issue with far-reaching implications for India's democracy. It is a debate that goes beyond the realm of electoral logistics and touches upon the very principles of federalism, representation, and governance. While the proposed reform offers potential benefits in terms of efficiency, cost saving, and governance, it also raises concerns about state autonomy, regional representation, and the potential for electoral manipulation. The debate surrounding One Nation, One Election is ultimately a reflection of India's evolving democracy and the ongoing quest to find the most effective and equitable electoral system. As India moves forward, this debate is likely to intensify, requiring careful consideration, open dialogue, and a commitment to upholding the principles of democracy and federalism.